And he says, I'm not doing tapas for anybody. My tapas is sustaining the worlds. He said, oh, okay. So the worlds include what all? So he describes in great detail. He says, this is what all the worlds are composed of. And the worlds also include Prakriti. Oh, your tapas is the source of Prakriti, and a woman who is a part of Prakriti is now threatening your tapas so much. Make up your mind. Are you in Prakriti's control or is Prakriti in your control? And she stuns him then. And then he says, Himan, let your daughter come. Very shy, extremely intelligent girl. Tumba hushar. Then also she caught him in a web of words. Now also she caught him in a web of words. Because she is Vagadhishwari. Every word that she uttered there talks about Sankhya Yoga. And the essence of how to understand every element of nature. Now, every word that they speak is pure Vedanta. About the nature of Maya, about the nature of Atman. And here, when she asks Shiva so gracefully, there is not a moment in the story where Parvati has a grudge. Saying, oh, you said that to me, I'm holding it against you. It's such a relationship of love that she just smiles and she says, is this stuti to Maya? And he says, this stuti is to Maya Tita Swarupini, who manifests as Maya and nourishes the world. Now nourish me, Annapurna. And he stretches out his Bhiksha Patra. And when he does that, Annapurna places Bhiksha into Shiva's hands, into the bowl. What Bhiksha does she place? What is in the pot? What is in the south? And what goes into the Bhiksha Patra? If I tell you tomorrow, that will be Naivedyam in all your houses. No? What is that Bhiksha? This is where Skanda Puranam, Linga Puranam, and the Sthala Puranams of Kashi do not tell you what she fed. This is when Puranas do this. When Puranas give you a moment, but don't describe the moment. Chidambara Mahatmyam, an entire portion of a Purana. Chidambara Mahatmyam talks about how Shiva came as Nataraja and danced for the very first time in Chidambaram, his Ananda Tandavam. They describe till that moment. But one line they give about, yes, he performed his dance and then he stayed back. They don't describe the dance. They don't describe the Bhiksha. Why? Because these are moments when they want you to look beyond the literal. It is not about which day of Navaratri, what kind of sundal to make, whether to wear grey color, green color. Puranas didn't want us to stop here. Puranas wanted us to think beyond and recognize what is that Bhiksha that she can give. So today we explore that Bhiksha, taking excerpts from the conversation between Parameshwara and Parvati. These conversations are what the Taittiriya Upanishad explores, talking about the nature of Annam. She looks at Parameshwara and she says, this Annam that you are seeing, this Annam is responsible for life, Parameshwara. Let me tell you how. Annam is what is filling the earth. And Annam, the essence of Anna, enters into plants. Those plants are consumed by human beings. That consumed Anna enters into the body of human beings, and in the male body it gives rise to Virya or Tejas, or in English sperm. That Virya holds the essence of Anna. It's becoming a little philosophical, but it's morning time, so you want to sleep in. But just catch on to the essence. Food in Bhuvanam, in the world. That food's essence goes into the body. In the body, particularly it's talking about the male body, there's a reason why. It goes into the male body and gets absorbed as Viryam. Viryam is the only liquid which comes out of the body which has life. Because that sperm is then capable of going and producing life. So this sperm, which has the essence of Anna in it, goes into the female body. There it meets with the egg, which has arrived, or the egg has been created after the female has also consumed Annam. The essence of Annam is in both the bodies. The essence of Annam meets, and through that another form of life is formed. That new form now will depend on Anna once it comes out and once it is inside the mother's womb. So all of this Srishti is coming from Annam. So the same Annam that you said, that does not have too much of meaning and is not as important in the spiritual realm, this Annam is forming the basis of this universe, Parameshwara, she says. This is the literal aspect of Anna Bhiksha. We will explore a little bit about Annabiksha and then proceed. Is that okay? Because the context of Anna, of Bhiksha, both these contexts, if you can understand, may you have tripti. May you be satisfied, because if you are satisfied, the Paramatma inside you is satisfied. If the Paramatma inside you is satisfied, you will bless the place where you have eaten. That is why we have the phenomenal habit at the end of a meal to say, Annadata Sukhi Bhava. May the giver of this food be well. So, Vyasa has also said the same thing. The meal is over, and now both the husband and the wife come to do namaskar, because when you feed somebody, you are blessed because they have come to your house and they have eaten. So you have to do a namaskaram to them. Any Aditi who comes to your house is blessing you. So immediately the Dampatis come out, they do a namaskaram, and they're talking to Vyasa. Now mood is also okay, no? Salpa vada hodre hangry will become so pleasant. Happened? Not happened to any of you. Okay, I'm speaking to some Yatindras who don't have any emotional fluctuations. I'm only admitting to all my shortcomings here. When this hunger is replaced, just some warm food in the stomach after being hungry for a prolonged period of time. Today, by God's grace, many of us don't know what that feels like. But countless people still feel it every day. They feel hunger in their body, they feel it in their hearts. And to such a person, the only rule for Annadanam which is given is feed somebody who is hungry. Don't look at their jati, don't look at their gender, don't look at 5,000 things. Feeding someone who is hungry is the greatest bhagya. Because that Jatharagni is asking for something to be placed. If you have the honor of doing it, do it. So this Dampati, or these Dampati, they did this. And now, they sit down for a small chit-chat with Vyasa. Because this lady says, you're such a Yatindra, so much tapas you have. Tapas Sampannaha, she calls him. And then she says, you have come to Kashi, which is a Mahanagari. So tell me, when somebody lives in a Mahanagari like Kashi, what dharma should we follow? She is asking him. But now I presume you know who she is. So, Vyasa looks at her and he says, you are already following such Uttamattama dharma, Unnata dharma you are following. You and your husband together are performing Grihastha dharma to such perfection. What dharma is left for you to follow? And she said, okay. I'll ask more specifically, Munivara. I am saying for anybody, what is the dharma that they should perform when they are in a Punya Kshetra? So Vyasa thinks and he says, the first dharma they should perform is being kind to people over here. This is what Vyasa says. Immediately, the husband speaks. So was that kindness shown by you to the city of Kashi, Munivara? Vyasa was cornered. He didn't know what to say, but he recognized what was going on. Immediately the man continued. Tapas is seen as a virtue by you. Dharmam is seen as a virtue by you. Dhanam is seen as a virtue by you. Vak Patutvam is not seen as a virtue by you. Placing a shapam on the city of Kashi was seen as a virtue. Tell me something, Munivara. He says, Vyasa is shaking. He says, what? If somebody does not get something, this question is very important to understand, Annapurna. If somebody does not get something because of their own karma, what happens if they blame the outside world? Tell me as per Shastra, if you don't get something that you are trying to get, no matter how much effort you put into it, if you don't get it, because of something which is missing in your own journey, your own karma, and you still blame the outside world and you curse the outside world, what will happen to that curse according to Shastra? Vyasa says, you cannot even look at that man anymore. He puts his eyes down and he says, the curse will fall on the person who said the curse. That man now converted himself in 1 second to Parameshwara and said, Tadhastu. That curse will be on you for speaking of my Kashi like this. You know what Vyasa did in that moment? Fell at Bhavani's feet. He fell at her feet and said, Annapurna, you appealed to him. I was hungry. I didn't know what I was saying. I cursed Kashi, which is a Punya Kshetra. It was a mistake. But now, he is banishing me from Kashi. He is telling me that I cannot step into Kashi. You appeal on my behalf. Parvati can appeal. Only Parvati can appeal. Only Lakshmi can appeal on our behalf. This is the basis of Vishishtadvaita Sampradaya as well. And Parvati looks at Parameshwara and she says, he has made a mistake. In his hunger, he has said something about this Mahanagari. It is a mistake, he has to be punished. But don't take away the bhagyam of entering Kashi for him. Allow him to come here every Ashtami and every Chaturdashi. Let him come here. Let him have Kashi Vasan, or at least on those 2 days. For the remaining days of the month, let him live on the other side of Ganga. Vishweshwara again said, Tathastu. Vyasa Kashi is on the other side of Kashi till date. Now, this story talks about many things. On one hand, this story is illustrated to talk about how you need to control what comes out of your tongue, especially when you are in kshetras. When you are in kshetras, you do not know who is who. Even if some 5 layers predominantly called as the Panchakrosha. Panchakrosha Vistirnaha iti Kashi Kshetraha, they say. That it is 5 enclosures of varying heights. So those who actually follow the vratam of staying in Kashi, even the railway station and the airport, they don't visit during that time because they have to be inside Kashi. Kashi is called as Panchakrosha. The body also has some connection to 5. The body is also made of 5 layers. What are those called? Panchakosha. What is the first kosha? Annamaya kosha. The body is made of annam. This we all agree about, no? This is the first layer. Second layer is prana or mano? Sure. Because anna sustains prana. So, Annamaya kosha leads to Pranamaya kosha. Prana in turn sustains the mind. So, Manomaya kosha. The mind in turn supports intellect. So, you have Jnanamaya kosha. And this intellect in turn supports what? Sorry? Bliss. This kosha safeguards the bliss of the self. The innermost kosha called as the Anandamaya kosha. Now come back to Kashi Kshetra. Kashi Kshetra has many names. One of the names of Kashi Kshetra is Anandavana. Sanandamanandavane vasantam Anandakandam Hatapapavindam Varanasinatham Anathanatham Sri Vishwanatham Sharanam Prabhati. There Vishwanatha rules in Ananda Nagari. Kashi is called as Ananda Nagari. Kashi has Annapurna. Annamaya kosha, Anandamaya kosha. Everything, mother here, father here, in between everything is Kashi. That Kashi is here inside the body. The external body she makes, the internal body she protects. As Annapurneshwari on the outside, as Vishwanatha on the inside. The entire Kashi Kshetram, to show this aspect, she says, I am the ruling goddess of Kashi. If there is no Annam, none of these truths exist. So therefore, O Parameshwara, don't insult Annam. Don't reduce Annam. This is a samskara. Taittiriya says exactly this. Annam nanintayet. You cannot say something. When Upanayana samskara is done for children, I'm not talking about the Upanayana samskara that happens one day before marriage. That is an extraordinary function which I do not want to speak about on this platform. When Upanayana samskara is performed in the right paddhati at the right age, the Vatu is taught niyamas, Sandhya Vandana, Devata Anusthana, etc. is also taught Ahara Niyamas. When you're taught Ahara Niyamas, how to do Parishechana of your food, how to respect your food when you sit and you eat it. Amongst the respect, the different activities that you do for your food, one of them, which should be practiced by anybody irrespective of Vatu, irrespective of Upanayanam, is don't ever criticize the food that you are eating, because the food that you are eating will influence your thoughts. Your thoughts are your first guide. Therefore, your thoughts are your guru. Therefore, your food is your guru. If you insult the food that you are eating, it is equal to Guru Ninda. That is why, for children who have Upanayana Samskara, when they are eating the food, first of all, you should never ask them how is the food at early stages in their thing. Because children, being children, will answer honestly. Children will not hold it back. But if a child is still mature enough, they are taught that no matter what, you must always say the food is good. Later, after the meal is over, you can silently go and tell the person who cooked it, yeah, maybe a little more salt will help this. But never do you have the authority to say, this food is bad, I don't want to eat this. Again, we live in times of very dramatized cinema where people are shocked in a moment and they drop a plate full of food, drop a plate of rice. This nonsense is not what Sanatana Dharma said. Sanatana Dharma said that is God. That is your Guru. You cannot do Guru Ninda. Honor it, respect it. The way we talk about food, the way we look at food, if you miss these close, you'll miss an entire relationship with food. Today's parents are understandably anxious about how should I raise my children, what book should my children read. It's not what books your children read. It's what habits you set for your children. I will make an exception and use this as one of the only times I will speak about my own upbringing, where I'm grateful to a home, to parents who never let us watch TV. Me or my brother never let us read a book while we were eating. When we were eating, our entire concentration on our food alone. Today, 30 years later, I recognize the power of that value that I was imbibed with. I still cannot get myself to do that. Because that is Prana Shakti, that is Praneshwari, Pranadatri, Pancha Shakti Dharupini. That Praneshwari will go inside here. That goddess, Annada Vasudha Vritha, Brahmatmaikya Swarupini. Outside she is the giver of Anna, inside she is merging us with Parabrahma, Kashi Kshetra Nivasini. How many of these namas are connecting to Annapurna? That food deserves respect. Worry about which books to read for your children later. You don't look at your cell phone when you're eating food. Your child will follow the same. Teach by example, not through preaching. Change the way they look at Surya Bhagavan, change the way they look at food. Your children's bhavishyat will be secure. Mark my words. Because if they stop looking at Surya as a glowing ball of fire, why are we praying to him? Then they will recognize Paramatma Tattva. We spoke about Surya Katha in great detail. But your children will only do that if you do a namaskaram to Surya at that time. If you are able to do that for him, your children will invite that. Then Surya will come. Surya is called as the consumer of all food. Bhudevi is the giver of all food. Bhudevi is Annada. And he is the consumer of it. This is what Vishnu Sahasranam says. Annam Annada Evacha. Annada is the one who is eating. The one who is giving, the one who is eating, everything is me. Everything has to be respected in that process. See, we're sitting here talking about Surya Katha, so talking about Annapurna Katha, all these things. Bharatiya Samskriti is linked to our habits, not to our texts alone. Our texts simply frame the context and tell us something as simple as food is this powerful. Irrespective of what belief system you come from, can you look at your food from today, from the next meal that you have, wherever it is, whatever it is. We no longer live in times when we are able to eat only in the security of our homes. We still have to eat sometimes outside. But Shastram is saying that when you eat outside, you don't know what bhavam has gone inside the food. The bhavam of the person who is cooking will go into your food. If you are in a bad mood when you are cooking that food, that energy will seep into the food. That is why food which is earned through violence, food which is pulled out of animals when animals are in pain or are in fear, that food will carry that fear, it will go here, it will enter the thoughts, and that fear is what manifests in the mind. That is why they said, be careful of what you eat, where you eat. Be careful of what mood you are when you are eating. Chew your food properly. Everything about food, they said, most attention you give this. We gave because day 1 sundal, day 2 vada, day 3 paisa. That's not the only kind of attention they asked us to do. Every meal become cognizant. For once, for a few seconds before your meal, think of all the people responsible for that food on your plate. From that farmer, hundreds of kilometers away, who transplanted that rice when it was raining in order to ensure that it reached you. From that lorry driver who brought it either to a middleman or directly to someone who would sell it to you, to the person who packaged it, to the person who collected, to the person who cooked it, and to the person who fed you. How many Annapurnas every day are there in our lives? Are they getting our prayers or not? We don't have to worry about, so Annapurna is wearing Where? How can I do Annapurna Upasana? What do I need to do? Thank all the Annadatas in your life. Say Annadata Sukhi Bhava and mean it. Let that prayer reach every farmer, because the Annapurnas of this country, which is the largest agrarian producer for the world, are all those farmers who day in and day out are toiling so that we can sit here and have rice, not just for our food, but for every ritual that we perform. Today, if we are able to do all of that comfortably, it is because Annapurna is present in each one of them. That is how we need to expand our worldview of her and recognize that where she rules, a world will be set up. Where there is dhanadhanya samriddhata, where there is abundance of food, of grains, it will distribute from there. That is the nature of the universe. Wealth is not meant to be hoarded. Dhanam. That is why Mahaperiyava, Kanchi Mahaparamacharya asked us to do one thing, and I encourage you to do this. If you want to know what kind of sadhana to do, consider this. Paramacharya's taking his example, follow this. He came up with a beautiful scheme called as the, referred to as different names in different languages, but essentially the one handful scheme. All he said in this scheme is, every day when you are cooking, take one handful of rice aside and keep it. At the end of 1 month, how much ever is collected, go and give it to a temple nearby and ask them to do Annadanam with this. If you do this, everybody who comes to that temple will have food. And many people who cannot afford a daily meal will come to that temple. Along with this, he used to say, give 1 anna per month. Let that be used to buy vegetables. In today's time, we're all blessed to be earning well enough for us to add a little bit more generously. Because our generosity ends when it comes to charity. No rupai sakalva. But that we don't think when we are in a restaurant eating mosru for 2,000 rupees. Stretch your hands. Allow that diksha to become from the heart. And donate 1 handful of rice per day. 1 month. Start again. Do this as a habit and see what it does to you internally. This doesn't require much. Just 1 handful of rice. As a symbol of that, we asked you all to bring 1 handful of rice. I was so touched when as soon as I entered, Neelanna told me 1 sack is already full. That's the love and the prema that you all brought here. So gratitude to you all for beginning your journeys of passing on Annapurna's Bhiksha. We are only caretakers of her Bhiksha. This is not our Bhiksha. We are not in a position to say, Naan kodta idini Bhiksha. We are nobody. It is hers. We had it for safekeeping. We are transferring it. That is true of Bhiksha. That is true of Anna. That is true of this world. This earth is not ours.